Hey Alyssa, how's it going? I'm looking at this stuff, and this stuff is really coming along nicely. There's only a little bit of stuff that I want you to focus on what's there, and then I'll talk a little bit about eye masks and resources about where to look to try to think about it, and then I'll go through this and tell you where I think like the bigs and smalls should be in an eye mask pass. Yeah, so let's take a look at what is already there.
Mom, wait! I told you before. I don't want these stains in our home. Mom, don't make a big deal out of this. Don't speak to me with that attitude.
Yep, I feel like this is coming along
Mom,
great. I
wait!
feel like it's pretty strong. I'm just going to make some suggestions here and there. I would get, oh, what did I do? Huh, there's always new surprises for me in this program. That's great. I love that straight arm there that you got. I feel like I want to see it just a little bit earlier. So maybe this pose can also be more or less like straight armed, like the following pose. I think let's get it out straight because it's strong. And then maybe I would do a hand pose that's more just like an open splay on her. I'm drawing it just to explain what the heck it is I mean when I say open splay. But it's not going to look that way from this angle, of course. But I kind of feel like a mom weight kind of thing would be like, where would the thumb be? Thumb would be on the inside. I don't know. I don't know how to draw a thumb on the inside. We're just going to say it's there. Maybe that's right. Okay, but anyways, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe something a little more, just like splayed like mom weight. And make sure you're truing up your legs here and like your pelvis and stuff. I know it's kind of hidden by the bag, but I would imagine that if the hips were like a rectangle, they would be rotated back in space a little bit. This leg's back, this leg's forward, right? And then when we would see the next pose, like this leg would kind of be more down. And I'm not saying you have to animate the legs and the foot rolls and all that perfectly, but you do kind of feel it a little bit off screen when it's not quite right. You know what I mean? And people are gonna hopefully, people are gonna be framing through your animation, like looking to see what you did, the choices you made, and everything. Okay, but anyways, that's tiny stuff.
Wait! I told you before. I don't want these.
I feel like there's like some searching around here with the hand. Maybe these are just errant keys, but I find that like kind of distracting when I feel like we want the attention to hit the mom.
I told you before. I told you before. I don't want these stains in our home.
I think the mom animation is really nice. Maybe a little, like you can introduce a little, instead of like having her face at this angle, maybe it can be a little bit lessened so that when you get something like, so it has a place to go still to kind of like soften out of the move. So in the next pose, you are in that angle. You know what I mean? So that you have like, you're not quite all the way there yet. I guess it's a really awkward way of me saying like maybe you need a little in between on the head angle going into your final head angle, which looks like it's kind of like there. Just like a little bit of detail and stuff. And then possibly I would lower her chin down in this. See if that pose doesn't read as like a little bit more appealing if she's a little bit more like this. If it's like, maybe it doesn't communicate the attitude that you want if you do something like this. And if it doesn't, then ignore it, whatever. But see if like lowering down her chin maybe kind of like opens up her face to the camera. It makes it a little bit more of an appealing pose.
Don't want these stains in our home. Mom, don't make a big deal out of this. Don't speak to me.
Yeah, okay. So I like that phrasing for the kid. I know I'm saying like keep the face open to the camera, but maybe this kind of turn could have another in between in that pose before it settles here, right? Because it feels like maybe it's kind of the same. So I guess what I'm saying is on the previous pose here, maybe it's still turned back just ever so slightly, the way the one was before. You know, I'm not sure if there's other rotations being involved in that, but just like maybe you just like, I don't know, animate into it. Hopefully that doesn't contradict anything that I told you before. Maybe you can bring these arms out a little bit, just tiny adjust to like get a little bit of separation between these two hands so that they're not so like stacked on top of each other. But these are like little nitpicky things, and these could also be addressed later, you know. I feel like this, getting the little kid from this to this, is a pretty big jump. So, you know, you're going to need something where maybe like it starts to move back from the cog here. Maybe the chest stays rotated forward here. You know, maybe the head dips forward just a little bit. Like with some drag or something. And then we get up into something like this, which you have kind of like a nice ease out on. Again, I'm just watching the little kid. And then there's like a jump back out of more like fear.
To me with that attitude.
Which is cool. I like all that. Alright, cool. So then I'm watching the mom.
Don't speak to me with that attitude.
Love the hand pose. I feel like that's stronger.
Wait. I told you before. I don't want these stains in our home.
So just a little nitpicky thing with her head shake. It feels like kind of even in its timing and spacing, and I think the timing is fine, but maybe the spacing needs to be like, I guess the suggestion I would make on how to get the spacing maybe a little bit better is not rotate back so far this way on that one and just keep it a little less, but again, that's maybe a little nitpicky or whatever, so take it or leave it. Especially at this point, we can go over all this stuff again later.
Mom, don't make a big deal out of this. Don't speak to me with that attitude. Speak to me with that.
This hand pose here always kind of catches my eye because it looks like a hand pose you would use to like hold something. I kind of feel like she could, in this gesture coming up this way, almost like start rotating the hand, like so that we start seeing the back of the hand. Now maybe we don't need to see the whole back of the hand here. It's like starting to happen, but like by here maybe we're seeing like the thumb on the back of the hand and stuff here. You know, like palm down this way. It's kind of what I'm trying to suggest. And then here, you know, it could also, like I like this splayed open hand, but maybe we can see a little bit more, like if this is a rectangle, like we're seeing more of the side of it. Hopefully that makes some kind of intelligible sense here. Yeah, it's like an anticipation of this. So this maybe can be just more like, just rotate the wrist and see what kind of hand angle that gives you. Anyways, this is a great pose. I love this. So let's talk about eye masks, because I think that this is in like a good spot. So I was looking for examples, and I'm not sure if this is going to be recorded if I switch to a different thing. But there is like character sheets of Disney characters. I wonder if I can post that in the sync sketch. Look, these are great examples of like really flexible eye masks. How can I possibly do this? Add frame note mention with the frame note. Did that work? Yeah, maybe. Maybe it worked as a note on frame 4. Anyways, you know, these Disney character sheets, they have really great examples of the eye mask. So the eye mask kind of refers to the brows here, and then like the eyes, and then there's even like kind of like this squishy area under the mouth. So I think they call it the eye mask because it's kind of like, you know, like in The Incredibles, they wore those masks. I forget what they're called, like masquerade masks or whatever. But it's kind of like this whole area of the face, right? So it's kind of like, when do the eyes open wide? When do they get narrow, right? When do the brows go up and when do they go down? And so all this stuff is kind of related. Like if you push up the brows, it should pull on some of the flesh between the top of the eyelid. And it may even pull on the eyelid itself, right? And the same thing, like when a character smiles, it's going to put upward pressure on like the cheeks, and the cheeks are going to push this up. And then a lot of times, you know, that's how we get like kind of that like shorthand for like a smiley eye, is that the bottoms kind of go up like this, and then when the eye is smiling and it's closed, it goes up on this. It's kind of representing like the cheeks pushing up on the mass underneath the eye, right? And so you can really, if you take a look at those character sheets, you can like really see how much the eye mask on those Disney characters moves around. Now, I'm not sure if you're going to have that range of motion on your characters here, but if I just look, like listen to the phrasing of each little bit, I'll tell you what I think about like my intuition of what it tells me the eye mask should be doing.
Mom, wait.
So the mom wait,
Mom, wait.
I can see it just kind of being like, you know, I think kind of like this kind of brows. He's like, I don't want to call them puppy dog brows, but kind of like that is fine. Like on the first mom, like that's kind of mom. And then I could see in the pause after the first mom that they lower down just a little bit. And so you kind of want to just like act it out and see what your face tells you instinctively what to do. So this is just like a tiny little drop down of this stuff. And when you drop down that stuff, you know, all of this maybe compresses a little bit, not sure, but goes, Mom, wait. And on the wait, let me listen to it again, just to make sure I'm not misremembering.
Mom, wait. Mom.
Yeah, so I could see the compression happening in the eye mask here, like mom, there's a compression. And then with the weight, I think you would want them to go up. I'll do it in blue. You would want them to go up just slightly higher than they were originally, right? And I'm drawing these as like straight lines. The geometry of your character will be like very different. You know, a lot of eyebrows don't do this on real human beings. It's like sometimes they're kind of like this. There's different eyebrow shapes based on different people. And there's also going to be different eyebrow shapes on what your character does. So like mom, they should be kind of puppy dog here. And then this is like during the pause between the mom and the wait. And then I think wait, you know, is full kind of like puppy dog, because it's like like they're kind of like begging the mom to like, listen, be reasonable, don't jump to your angry lady conclusions, right? So now I'm going to keep just focusing on the girl, and then we'll talk about the mom in a second.
Mom, don't make a big deal out of this.
Okay, cool. That's a good phrase.
Mom, don't make a big deal out of this.
So I could almost see mom staying kind of in the worried puppy dog thing. So we're starting again, kind of like in something like this, right, with the brows. Let me hear again.
Mom, don't make a big deal out.
Okay, then I think don't make a big deal.
Mom, don't make a big deal.
And you have the eyes closed here too, which is fantastic. I think that's a good call, because that's what my body's naturally doing too. But when I'm like doing the don't make a big deal, I almost like squint and shut my eyes like kind of hard, like, and that's going to bring like my brows down. I don't know how angry you would want this to look, but This is definitely like a compression of the eye mask because it's both the brows and the eyes closing and everything like kind of squinting tightly shut on the don't make a big deal. Let me listen again.
Mom, don't make a big deal out of this.
And I would open it back up on deal.
Don't make a big deal out of it.
And I know you kind of have like this hint of an eye roll or something in here, and that's fine. And maybe you can do that on deal when you open that. But when I'm just feeling it, where did my drawings of the eyes go? Here we go. You know, this is where I feel like we really want to get kind of like big with the eyes. You know, whether it's an eye roll in there or not. But it's just like, geez, Mom, the heck. And that's when we're going to get the brows like really, really expanded. So I would recommend doing that on deal. But again, you can make your own kind of like, just act it out. Check your reference. I mean, your reference is right here. I can check your reference. What am I talking about? Oh, this isn't your little girl. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I think I would recommend going a little bit more expressive than what your reference is. Let me see what happens after deal when I act it out.
Mom, don't make a big deal out of this.
It kind of goes back to a wider puppy dog is what I feel my face doing. So maybe like, you know, instead of being a narrower puppy dog, like try to widen it from what you were doing before. I know that I'm drawing eyes in two totally different visual languages, and that must be slightly confusing or whatever. This is not necessarily my strength, is imagining and making up shapes. But the thing is like not as closed or as puppy dog on the mom, but maybe just a little bit more open because she's like a little bit more fighting. She's in a more fighting stance rather than like a concerned stance. I don't know. Maybe that's overly thinking it. I think it's like of this is kind of like the last words of the line.
Attitude.
Okay, so now taking another pass, think about the mom.
I don't know.
I like how the calmness in the mom is going to suggest very little movement.
I don't want these things in our home.
But I think I don't want these things in our home. I would definitely feel like on home, that's when the eye mask is like kind of growing and bigger. When she starts, it's just more like normal, like she's trying to stay calm. So it's going to be kind of like in an average medium instead of normal. I'll say medium. It's far more accurate. And she's trying to stay calm even.
Things in our home.
So when I'm saying this may be an opportunity where I don't want these things in our home, like maybe she opens her brows on home, but this may be one of the opportunities to kind of leave her eyes sort of lidded, where the lids don't come up with the brows, but they stay kind of like half covering the pupil, right? Because she's trying to stay calm and she's trying to do it like a knowing explanation to the kid. Hopefully the scribbly little cartoon that I made explains the intent. And that means she would have to start kind of lidded with like the brows lower. You know what I mean? Like this is the eyelid, and then when these brows go up, they would kind of pull on these eyelids. I don't know if you have control over the meat, kind of like between the eyebrows and the eyelids or whatever. But see if you can give that like impression.
Don't make a big deal out of this.
Okay, and then her kid has the nerve to talk some sass to her.
Don't speak to me with that ass. Don't speak.
Okay, cool. Let me open it up more. I didn't open it up enough, the play range.
Don't speak to me with that attitude. Don't speak to me with that attitude.
I definitely feel like there's a lot of different ways to go here, but I feel like on attitude, that would be a moment where the eye mask is like kind of growing. You know what I mean? In fact, like it should kind of be like, and this is just one possible way to go. There might be other solutions. Try to act it out and see what you're doing, but when it's attitude, it should be kind of like the biggest, widest eye with like, you know, the brows being up. You know, there's going to be a lot of times too where she says, "Don't speak to me." And here you have kind of like an angry thing here. You know what I mean? And I think that that's fine. I think it would also be fine to still be kind of cross with her here. So when you get mad, your brows are going to go down and push in kind of like together, like there's muscles, and that's what causes these wrinkles between them, right? So you want to make sure that they're not just going down into this angular shape, but that the center portions and maybe are like going in. Probably there's a lot to know about eyebrows. They don't move a ton, they don't shape around a ton, but if they're not right, you notice that they're not right. Maybe I can speak more about eyebrows in the lecture. Yeah, but I like attitude maybe being up when she says attitude. So she's like cross earlier, like don't speak to me with that. But then attitude is kind of like a relaxation of that anger, saying like, you have an attitude, young girl. Like that's kind of the subtext that I'm seeing here. And then by the end, you know, that's probably going to relax more to like a medium. So with the don't speak to me in this beginning part, it's going to be compressed. And that's what kind of happens when you get angry. And then on attitude, it should be really, really wide. Just right wide. And then at the end, it can kind of sort of relax, but it should still kind of look like she's upset, right? So we don't want to keep her at her angriest because she's said her piece. And I think that's maybe released some of her anger, but we also don't want her to look like this isn't important to her. We don't want her to look aloof or bored or whatever by having it just go back to neutral. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. This is, you know, but yeah, check out those like Disney character sheets. I especially like the one of like the guy from Tangled for some reason. Like his mask really seems to speak a lot. But all of those sort of like character sheets, and you can just Google them in general. Like most animated character sheets or model sheets that you watch, that you look at, are going to have an expression sheet. That expression sheet will really pay attention to that eye mask and what they're doing with it, like how wide it gets and how small it can get, and how all the flesh of the face kind of gets involved in that stuff. It makes it feel like really 3D, and it makes it feel like, yeah, it makes it feel like a solid character that like really is like squishy and fleshy, but also solid. I don't know. Maybe that's a poor expression of it, but I would check that stuff out and try to incorporate that into your next pass of this. Like try to do that eye mask pass, and I think, you know, when you start, I have faith that once you start doing it, we're going to really start to see the characters like as if almost they're talking, even though their mouths won't be moving at all. So give it a shot, give it a go. Keep working on like your breakdowns and putting in poses and stuff like that in this piece. But yeah, oh yeah, maybe fix this finger. That finger's going through the comic book. What the hell? What the hell? I'm just kidding. I really look forward to seeing your progress on this. I think it's going great, and I look forward to seeing your next pass. All right, see you in class.